put down that camera and strap in. It's time for a new episode of TogChat Live. It's an open mic night for photographers. Get ready for 60 minutes of your photography questions in real time with answers from your host, Joe Edelman.
Hey gang, that's me. How you doing? Welcome to another episode. In fact, episode number 42 of TogChat. Thank you guys for spending your Wednesday night with me. So for the next 60 minutes, which if you've ever been here before, you know I never get done in 60 minutes, but we are gonna have an open mic night. It's your night. Your questions, my answers. I will do my best to share whatever information you are looking for. So you name it. So it is great to see you guys. I see some new names in here. Rick from Brooklyn. We got Tom W. Mark, it's good to see you back. Marcel, Smart Video. Robert Bechtel, how you doing? Jean Edward, you guys in the Netherlands. Come on, stop whining about sleep, man. Sleep, what do you need sleep for? Stay up, learn photography, hang out, talk for a while, right? Come on. We got Doreen here. Troy's dealing with clients. Philippe, Doug, all you guys. Roderick, Andre is here from Rome. I hate you just a little bit. Rome, such a cool place. Jean, Cleavon, all you guys. Hey, seriously, thanks for hanging out with me tonight. Really, really, really appreciate it. So, listen, gang, tonight is an open mic night. So, I had one of those days where I was like really, really prepared and on top of it. And my day was going like smooth as silk. And then sure enough, 20 minutes ago, all hell breaks loose. I had a client on the phone, well, not a client, but an upcoming sponsor for the channel. And I got some information from another sponsor that's really cool that I can talk about tonight. And so needless to say, I'm scrambling to get ready. So instead of having questions prepared for you guys, I don't have any questions. I'm all yours. And I see a couple of you guys already, I forgot to mention it, are telling me where you're from. I love it when you guys do the hello from wherever you're at. I mean, we've got people in here tonight from Copenhagen, from the Netherlands. I know there's people in here from the UK and heck, even Nebraska. Really? I'm surprised New Jersey hasn't. All right, there's got to be somebody in here from New Jersey already, right? Usually I'll pick on New Jersey, and don't get me wrong, it's just because I'm from Pennsylvania. That's why I have to pick on New Jersey. If you were from Pennsylvania, New Jersey, you'd understand that. So seriously, guys, start loading up some questions here. I am all yours. In the meantime, while we're waiting for those questions to hit, and my buddy Chad is here, he's going to be taking care of all the questions, making sure they get from the chat to me, and also so that you guys can all say hi, because you guys that just showed up, the ones that weren't here for the pre-show party, just in case you don't know, I'm usually on here on chat by about 6 o'clock in the evening while I'm getting things set up. So those folks that did arrive early tonight, they know that I was late getting here, but nonetheless, we're ready to go. So you guys just saw a post go up from Morgan. Morgan is, you'll notice she's got that little wrench next to her name. That means be nice to her. She's a moderator in the chat now, and she can boot you if you're not nice. But Morgan is going to be my summer intern, and you guys will get to meet Morgan via YouTube when she gets here in June. Morgan is a student at a very prestigious art school here in the US. She's going to be interning with me for the summer, and I'm actually going to do a series of YouTube videos of Morgan's learning process because she's coming to work with me for the summer to learn about lighting. So in addition to sweeping my floors and taking my trash out like any good intern, I will be shooting some videos of Morgan as she goes through the learning process with lighting, and we're going to do it old school. So before we get into the questions, you guys know I always ask, since you're so great to come out and spend the time with me like this and to support what I'm doing, please gang, take a minute. It'll only take you a few seconds, and make sure you're doing all that cool social media stuff. So number one, if you're not following me on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, those are the platforms I'm most active in, but you can find me on Pinterest, you can find me on LinkedIn. All those links are in the description below the video, okay? But hey, do me a favor and let your friends know, especially your photography friends, let them know that we're here. Take a second, send out a tweet, post it on your Facebook, share this video, let people know that you're spending your time watching TogChat and that it's worth checking it out. And of course, it goes without saying, if for some reason you're here and you have not already subscribed to my channel, take a second and hit that subscribe button, please. That way you get notifications. Anytime a new video goes out, you will get notifications. The cool part is I am so thrilled now that I've got this live stream stuff down and the technology is doing exactly what I want. And if you weren't here Monday night, you'll notice I don't have that big old microphone sitting in front of me like I used to now. I'm able to do this with a lavalier. So I'm ready to go. The cool part is now I get back into making videos. I really hope that after the holidays and the marketing stuff, I was going to be able to get back in full stream. But for those of you that remember when I did those Images Reimagined videos where somebody sends me a picture and I kind of reimagine it my way, I'm going to be recording one tomorrow. One of the members of my Facebook group, which, by the way, if you're not a member of my Facebook group, that's another why not. The link is in the description section below. I promise you, if you are not a member of the Facebook group, you need to check it out. And the simple reason for that is it is very different than any Facebook group that you have ever participated in. You will learn things in this Facebook group. But I had someone submit a picture of their little niece in a little yellow princess dress holding a rose in a profile pose just like the poster from Beauty and the Beast. So I am going to do an Images Reimagined and I am going to turn that picture of this little girl into the Beauty and the Beast poster for you. So that will be going up in a couple days, but get ready. There's a flood of stuff that's coming up over the next couple of weeks. I'm really excited to get back into it, and the weather has finally settled in here in the Northeast. So I'm going to be heading outside pretty frequently at this point. We're going to be doing lots of outdoor lighting and outdoor portraiture type videos this summer. I am going to do one tutorial that I'm looking forward to probably in the next 2 weeks. I'm going to show you guys how to do awesome portraits in your garage with available light without having to clean up the garage. That's the best part. So a lot of cool stuff coming up there, but please let people know what we're doing. Share the news. Get the word out there. It'll be greatly appreciated. Okay? So I want to go ahead and get into questions for you guys tonight. Chad's loading up a couple questions here for me, and I'm just going to make this a little bit bigger so that I can read, and we'll go from there. So we got Jason Woodhouse from Utah. Welcome, Jason. What is the best time to use natural window light coming from the east, and where in the room to position the subject? Okay, so that being said, let me show you something, because the short answer to that question, Jason, is I have no freaking idea. The easy answer, though, and this is something I want to teach you, if you're an iPhone user, and there are similar apps available for Android, I want you to go out and I want you to get an app called Light Track. So it's not gonna focus if I hold up the screen, but I'm gonna click on it and at least open up so you guys can get a sense. What this app allows me to do is type in a location, and then I can pick a day in the calendar in the future or in the past. And I'm hoping you guys can see as I scroll here. I'm hoping you can see the see the red line going back and forth. Okay, what that does is I can set the time of day that I want to do my shoot at that location, and it's going to show me where the sun will be in the sky. So the yellow line is, let's see, the yellow line is sunset, blue line is sunrise, and then the red line is showing me where the sun will be at any given time. So if I'm planning a shoot, believe me, I use this religiously. Not that I do tons of shooting outdoors, excuse me, but anytime I'm shooting outdoors, this is part of my planning. I will put in the date, I put in the location, and it'll even show me, as you can see, that's like a Google Maps satellite image. So great app. There are several others. I know some of you that are here watching the show now probably have some other apps similar to this that you use. So by all means, feel free to share them. I'm going to type in the name of this one. It's Light Track. And let me just make sure I got it right before I hit submit. Yeah, so there are 2 T's. That's the name of it. If you search for it on the the Apple App Store, they may have an Android version available on that one. The second part of your question, Jason, how far or where in the room to position, I would encourage you, don't approach it that way. Meaning, it's going to be a lot easier to say, hey, listen, on Tuesday, I've got a model coming and I want to do a portrait. I want to be able to work with window light. She's only available at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So what you want to do then is use this app, figure out where is the light going to be in the sky at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And what that's going to tell you is will the light be coming in the window or not? If it's an east-facing window, it should get light in the morning. By 2 o'clock in the afternoon, it shouldn't be getting direct light, which means it'll be getting a nice, soft light coming in. So photographers ephemeris, or however you say that, Diego, you're right. I have heard of that one. It is available for all platforms. I will tell you guys straight up, I'm not going to get into a debate on which is better. I downloaded that program or that app years ago, so not recently. I preferred LightTrack much better. I've used LightTrack ever since. So are there others? Could you find something else and maybe it's cheaper? I see some of you talking about the price of LightTrack is $2.99. Yeah, that's fine. But as far as I'm concerned, if LightTrack was $10, I'd pay the $10. It's totally worth it. So back to Jason. The sun rises in the east, right? So if you're shooting in the morning, you're going to have direct sunlight coming through the window. If you're shooting midday or late in the afternoon, you're just going to, depending on how big the windows are, you're just going to have nice window light. So for me to say where the person should be, it's going to depend on the time of day. It's going to depend on how big the window is, meaning do you have huge windows with a lot of light coming in? Or do you have small windows with not so much light coming in? So I would encourage you to worry more about, hey, what time of day am I going to be able to shoot? Use an app like this. That's going to give you a sense of how much direct light is going to come in. And then the honest answer about your positioning is you're going to position the subject where you get the light that you like the best. For me to give you a time of day, for me to give you a position in the room, I don't know the size of the room, I don't know the wall colors, I don't know the ceiling height, I don't know the floor colors. All of those things are going to control and manipulate what happens with the light. So just something that I would suggest that you consider. Worry more about the time and the general sense of what the light's going to do and go from there. So I see where you're loading up a ton of questions, which is great. So I'm going to talk fast. I'm going to try and get through as many as possible. But just so you guys know, if you have a question that you have to get an answer to tonight, the way that you guarantee that I will answer your question is through Super Chat. If you look at the bottom of that chat window that's down there in the corner of your screen, you'll see a little $sign. That allows you to make a donation of anywhere from $1 up to $500. $500, hell, I'll give you the whole next show and the rest of this one, okay? But the point is, make a donation. Any Super Chat that goes up, I will answer that question, even if I've got to stay here late. I'm going to do my best to answer as many as I can for free, but if you really need your question answered, hit that Super Chat button, okay? So, I hope that answer helped you out, Jason. Let's move on next. We got James Lawson Smith. James, how you doing? I talked to James just last night. He is an event and a nightclub photographer mostly. He's looking to upgrade soon. He currently uses the Canon 600D and a Sigma 24-70 2.8. Would I suggest that he goes for a full frame camera or a wider lens? Okay, so James, the one thing that I am not sure about, so type real fast as soon as I ask this, and that way I'll try to get it all in one answer here. Is that Sigma 24-70, is that a full frame or is that a APS-C lens? If that's an APS-C lens, given that you're talking about event and nightclub work, I would consider upgrading to a better Canon APS-C camera. People get all hyped. I'm a full frame shooter, guys. I love full frame. For the work that I do, I want that extra. So James, it is full frame. Okay. So the reason why I mentioned that APS-C thing, if you're sitting with APS lenses, then you want to make sure you've got a compelling reason to go full frame, because then you're going to have to buy cameras and glass. So if it's already a full frame lens, you've at least got that flexibility, right? If you upgrade the body to a full frame, then you're not in a situation where you've got to buy new glass. So that's a positive, okay? Honestly, James, I'm a big believer in you upgrade equipment when you're finding that you're not able to accomplish what you need with the gear that you have. So you guys all know, I'm not a gear junkie, so I'm not super familiar with the 600D, and my understanding is that 600D is actually a European label for a different model number here in the US. They're the same camera, but apparently in Europe they go by the 600D, which actually sounds more like a Nikon, and then here in the US it's got a different name. But that being said, I believe that's one of the slightly older ones. So, the way I would approach it is if you're happy with the images that are coming out, if your clients are happy, if you don't find yourself with an overwhelming need to make billboard-size images, in which case then you may run into an issue with an older APS-C camera, I would say you might actually want to look at some lighting for your events and really be able to jazz your work up that way. Beyond that, I would be careful of anyone who immediately gives you that off-the-cuff answer of, oh, go full frame, or oh, stay APS-C. You make a change in cameras because you have a need. I find that a lot of people feel like, oh my God, the newest, latest, greatest came out. I'll give you a great example. You guys know that I'm using the Panasonic GH4s for my video. So as soon as Panasonic announced the GH5, which by all statistics, if you can get past the idea of the micro four thirds sensor, which is tiny, but the Panasonic GH5 is an amazing camera. Michael Hardy, thank you so much. I will get your question next. I really appreciate it, Michael. So the Panasonic GH5 on paper is an incredible camera. So the camera finally started coming out this week. People have it now. There's all kinds of problems with the autofocus, and the camera's just not working the way it was really meant to be working. So, for me, I've never been one of those people that's got to run and get a new camera right away. I mean, yes, right now I'm using Nikon D810s for my still shooting, but I didn't get the D810s when they first came out. I was still using D800s for quite a long time. I'm rarely a first adopter on technology. Truly, the only thing I'm a first adopter on, I'm ashamed to admit, I'm one of those Apple fanboys that, I grab the new ones as soon as they come out. But beyond that, not an early adopter. I will wait a little bit, and I will change when I have a need to change. So that's my advice to you. All right, Michael, when shooting outdoors, what do you look for or look to avoid when scouting locations? Okay, well, so Michael, let me switch screens a little bit real quick here, because there's a couple things I'm going to tell you. Number one, Michael, I want you to make sure, let me scroll down, that you watch this video. How to shoot portraits in bright sunlight. If you haven't seen it already, make sure you watch it. If you have watched it, go back and watch it again. The reason why I point that one out to you is I talk a little bit about backgrounds and locations in that video, but my short answer would be I go for stuff that's simple. Let me try and help you avoid a problem first, and then I'll go a little bit deeper on what I do. One of the things that, James, you're very, very welcome. One of the mistakes that I find new/young photographers, you guys know I always use that interchangeably, right? One of the mistakes that I find new photographers make is they will see a building. Maybe it's a building with lots of graffiti. We'll go with that. And they say, oh, it'd be so cool to shoot a model in front of the graffiti. Okay, that's been done before. You can do cool stuff like that. That's fine. But then the mistake they do is they go out and they take a picture and they've got this gorgeous girl in this really cool outfit. She looks amazing, all this stuff. And the finished picture winds up being more about the graffiti than it does the girl, because they were so hung up in the background. Sounds like those bokeh people, right? So when it comes to locations for me, I tend to look for locations that are super simple, kind of very nondescript, and I pick my locations based more on like color. So literally not even a mile from me, there is a huge, we're in the US, huge water tower that's painted blue. And it's got this massive base that comes all the way down to the grass that's painted blue. So the cool part of it, they're round, right? The base is round, as is the water tower. So any time of the day, I can go there and there's shade at some point around the water tower. So if I've got a girl in an outfit that's going to look really cool against blue, and I want to do a simple outdoor, natural light, softly lit image, I'll go there and I'll shoot her at the base of this water tower. It's grass all around the base, so it's not like stones and that. It's very pretty, even though it's a water tower, right? And the water tower sits at the edge of a parking lot. So, but I can put her in front of the water tower. It's big. So it's big enough I can keep her far enough away from this metal that's painted blue to use shallow depth of field. And because it's in the shade, I got this beautiful light. But when you look at the picture, you don't have any sense that it's a water tower. So for me, that's kind of the way I go about it. But I will give you one other tip. If you are at a point in your career where you're looking to get out and start doing location stuff, like if you haven't been doing a lot of that, and especially if you're like me and you're in the Northeast where it sucks to shoot in the winter, but now you're coming up with, Diego, I'm sorry, I have to put Diego, you're spelling it wrong. It's huge. And if you don't know what that means, let's just say it's a very presidential term. Hint, hint, okay? So that being said, I will, when I'm driving around town, Michael, I have my phone with me. And if I see the side of a building or an alleyway or a spot in the park or maybe like a path in the park, and I think like this is a cool spot, then I will take a picture with the iPhone, and I have a little album in my iPhone that is just like potential backgrounds. And I don't worry about taking notes on where it is or anything, because even if I forget, all I have to do is open up the GPS information in the image later, and Apple's going to show me a map of exactly where that was, so I know how to get back to it. But that way I kind of have this visual reminder. If I'm ever looking for ideas and I'm kind of feeling like really stuck, I can open up the album that I have on my phone and look for things that I've seen around town. It's like, oh, you know what? That'd be a cool spot to go shoot. Boom. And then I'll go shoot there. So I hope that helps a little bit with your planning. Okay. Diego, for portrait editing, Lightroom, Capture One Pro, and why? Well, okay. So let's get the terminology down right, just so we're on the same page. For editing, none of the above. So I want to be clear. Editing is the process of culling. In other words, I want this picture instead of this picture. So I do all my editing in Bridge. Now, I know that's not the question you're asking me, Diego. So for me, in terms of my post-processing, the developing of my image, neither Lightroom or Capture One Pro. I work exclusively in Photoshop. And that's not what I'm encouraging everyone else to do. My workflow is this. If I'm shooting tethered in the studio, I shoot with Capture One Pro because Lightroom is way too slow. Excuse me, period. Lightroom is fine if you're doing like product work and that kind of stuff, but if you're shooting models, it's just way too slow. If you're doing a portrait, you could probably get away with Lightroom, but if you're shooting a model, Lightroom would be just painful beyond belief. So I will do my raw processing, since I'm shooting in Capture One Pro to tether, I will do my raw processing in Capture One Pro. Once I am ready to do the final work on the image, so that means everything from cropping to healing tools to any type of dodging and burning, all that kind of stuff, I'm exclusively in Photoshop. I am not a fan of Lightroom, and I'm not saying people shouldn't use Lightroom, so please hear this out. I'm not a fan of Lightroom because I don't like the fact that I have to import images in and I have to have catalogs. Lightroom's biggest Achilles heel is the catalog. Plain and simple. The bigger they get, the slower your machine gets. It's a problem. So Lightroom is great to me. Lightroom is great for people that do like events, landscape work, nature, that kind of stuff. I had a filing system and a workflow that was in place before Adobe came out with Lightroom. Fortunately, I created a system that's very basic, it's very simple, but I could find any image that I've taken in the last 17 years in less than 3 minutes. Super simple, guaranteed. So when Lightroom came out for me, it didn't make any sense for me to try and get everything into Lightroom and catalog and all that way. It just made no sense. For somebody that's rather new to the game and getting started, Charles, thank you so much. I will answer your question in just a second. For someone that's just getting started, I would definitely encourage them to use Lightroom. I would encourage them to do as much of their post-processing as possible in Lightroom. But the minute you're going to get to the healing tools and liquefy and any kind of compositing and all that kind of stuff, you're going to be in Photoshop at that point. So I hope that helps, Diego. So Charles, you fly a lot for work and you'd like to take a light stand with you. Or take a light stand. Okay, so I'm assuming you mean a light stand as opposed to a light stand. Got it. Is there a compact, i.e. short light stand that you recommend that can fit in my carry-on? Any other travel tips when flying? Well, I think the number one travel tip for the week, avoid United, right? I'm not going to lie. I've gotten to the point I hate flying anymore. And I love to travel. I used to look for any excuse to travel. In the last couple of years, I have found myself, if I am going places on the East Coast, even if it means me having to do a 6 or an 8 hour drive, I'll actually drive it. It's just so much less hassle. But as far as flying goes, yeah, you can find stands. I'm going to do a real quick Google search here and try and talk at the same time. And then I will see if I can show this to you guys. If not, I'll just describe it. I have a set of portable stands that they're barely going to fit in a carry-on, but you could do it. I believe they're made by Westcott. And, well, actually, I know who I can show you. I'm sorry. Gosh, how could I forget these guys? I can show you one here really quick. Let me switch the screen over, and you guys can follow along while I try. I'm at LumaPro's website here. And there are one or two other companies that have similar stands. The LumaPro is a little more expensive, but it's got a really, really cool feature that makes it totally worth it. So here is their compact stand, and it has ground spikes, okay? So if I'm not mistaken, so please don't quote me, please go look at the price. I want to say this is like $60 or $70. So it's not super cheap, but it's got these little spikes that fold out. Let's see if I can find a close-up of them. No, that's, I guess, about as close as it gets. Those little spikes, so if you're out like in a park, and especially since you're traveling and you're going to get an airplane, if you don't want to have to carry like weights or sandbags, these spikes fold down and you can jam this thing into the ground, but it folds up pretty small. You can kind of see here, you know, how it actually collapses up on itself. So its collapsed height is 19.25 inches. So you're going to need a bag, you know, you're going to need a travel-on bag that's like at least 20 inches to fit it, but that will work. So like I said, there are a couple companies that have that style of stand. Some have it without the spikes, which are a little less expensive. I have several of these, and I love them. I have traveled with them. I find them to be, very easy to use. They are indeed lightweight. As far as other travel tips, honestly, it's just a matter of try and travel as light as you can. I'm the kind of photographer that I tend to overpack. Like, I'm ready to take the whole kitchen sink with me because I might need it. When it comes to flying, no dice. I trim it down and I discipline myself and I force myself with the idea that, hey, prepare yourself. This is what you're going to have to work with. Do it. Done. Okay? So that's kind of my approach. All right. Hey, guys, I want to take just real quick and I want to share something with you that this is a company that I like. They haven't given me any money, so they're not sponsoring this TogChat. But I promised, since they offered me this, that I would definitely talk about it. And literally, right before I came on the air tonight, somebody was typing a question about this software. If you guys have watched any of my last frame videos, those are the ones where I walk you back through shots that I've done, and I show you the software that does the 3D animation, okay? This is the software. So you've seen, this look in some of my videos. It's called Set Alight 3D. Chad is going to paste their website URL into the chat window for you any second. I am going to give you, which I'll paste into the chat window, as soon as Chad puts that in there, I'm going to give you a code that if you guys are interested, I want you to make sure that you save it and use it. And again, as soon as Chad gets that link in there for me, I will, there it goes. Okay, so there's the link to the Satellite 3D software website. You can download a free demo version and try it out. If you want to buy it, they have given me a discount code for 20% off. That's the code, happy-edel20, okay? That code will be good for 4 weeks from today. So if you've been thinking about that software, if you're interested in that software, you have got 4 weeks to go ahead and do the download, demo, try it out, and decide if you would like to give it a shot, okay? In fact, I want to just show you guys here. I'm going to switch you over to their website. This is their website. They've got a lot of really great tutorials on the website about how to use the software. They're a German company. In fact, oh, hey, look at that handsome guy in the bottom of their website. Wow, how cool is that? Anyway, seriously, these guys are great. I have had the good fortune of having a lot of conversations with the owner and designer of the software, Johan. He is awesome. Always trying to improve it. Just in the short time that I've known them, they have made a ton of improvements and added things to it. Like one of the first things when they sent me the software the first time, I realized there was no posing stool in the software. So the only way you could have a model sit down was on a chair. And I wrote him back and I said, it'd be really nice if it had a posing stool. 2 weeks later, out came an update and there was a posing stool. So they've really been, kind of awesome. It is a great, great learning tool. And I'll give you another little tip. If you are a member of my Patreon group, you can sponsor me on Patreon for as little as $1 per video, or even less yet, $1 per month. The link is in the description below. If you are a member of my Patreon group at $2 or higher, so for as little as $24 a year, right? You will have the ability to download the actual set files from the satellite sets that I put together for the last frame video. So anytime I do a last frame video, I take the satellite files and I upload them so you guys can download the actual lighting files, and then you can switch the lights over to lights that you have or modifiers that you have, and you can work to put together similar lighting setups to what I'm teaching you in the last frame videos. So if nothing else, I would sincerely encourage you guys, go check it out. No pressure on me. It's a great company. I believe in them. I'm a huge fan. That's why I'm telling you about it. But really, really awesome stuff. Okay. So next question up. Jean Edward Calvino. Currently, he owns a Nikon D5200 and he's planning on getting a full frame sensor for Nikon in the future. If you buy the Tokina 100mm, would it work with your current camera? Yes, maybe. I'm not sure. Here's what I mean. Will it work? Sure. Will it be completely autofocused? You need to check. Your camera manual will tell you. Understand that, and I'm not familiar with the D5200. That's why I'm saying this. I believe the answer is yes, but check your camera manual. The Tokina 100mm lens does not have a motor in it. Okay? It's a macro. I don't know of any macros that have motors, and somebody now is going to type in here and says, oh, wait a minute, this lens has a motor. They may, okay? But most macro lenses, especially the third-party manufacturers, don't have motors in them. So you've got to be using a camera that has a built-in motor for autofocus with the electrical connections to meet the lens. I believe all Canon models work that way, but Nikon, some of their lower-end DSLRs do not. So all you got to do is check your camera manual, and it's going to tell you, hey, it'll work with pretty much any autofocus lens, or it will only work with ones that have their own motor built in. But that being said, in fact, I believe if you go to Amazon at this point, I think if you go to buy a lens like that, they actually have a little utility that comes up at the top and tells you to type in your camera name and model, and it will actually come back and tell you from Amazon if it works with it. Okay, so Troy's saying that they all require a lens motor. So okay, and there we go. So there's your answer, Jean. You could use it, but it would be a manual focus lens. So, once you go to the full frame sensor, all the Nikon full frames have the motor, you'd be good to go. So that's really going to be a part of your decision-making process, okay? I see some of you guys talking about, do you go with the basic or do you go with the pro? The big difference is the basic doesn't allow you to remove their logo and all that kind of stuff. And I think the basic also limits you in terms of being able to make PDFs from the sets. But in terms of the actual functional operation of the software and the set lighting and that, it's the same for both of them. So indeed, overwhelming majority of you would be absolutely fine with the basic version. You probably don't need the pro. So again, I'm not making any money off them. I'm being completely honest with you, okay? All right, David, how do I feel about outsourcing post-processing? I understand that it's somebody's interpretation of your work, but for the sake of time saving. Well, okay, so let me explain what I do, David. I outsource part of my post-processing. In fact, I don't know if he's here tonight. I haven't seen his name go by, but the gentleman whose company that I use is a member of my Facebook group. His name is Sahin. He is in India. He and his buddy own a company called Clipping Path Land. You can find their website. Let me type it in here. And I just want to make sure that indeed I'm giving you the right website. So bear with me 1 second, guys. I don't want to give you bad information. and then I'll tell you exactly what I do. Yep, there's the website. So here's their website. I'm not going to lie to you. It's not all the best English, but the work's awesome. So here's what I do, David. I send my basic retouching to them, meaning when I have my raw file, I send it off to them and I say, okay, I want you to take care of the flyaway hairs. I want you to take care of the blemishes. If there's a crease in a shirt that I need to get rid of, I'll have them do that. If I need the background masked out, I will have them do that. They send that back to me as a PSD file, a Photoshop file, with all of the retouching layers in a folder, very, very neatly organized, super well put together, so that if I want to make adjustments to anything they've done, I don't have to start from scratch. I can go back and all their files with all the adjustments are in there. I do all of the finishing work. I will at that point then do all of, the color tweaking. If I'm doing compositing, I'll do that. All of my skin finishing, dodging and burning, all of that stuff. If I'm doing liquefy, body modifications, I could have them do that. I'm the kind of person I can't give up full control. That's just me. I don't judge people that do. I know, and I'm not going to name names, I know some very well-known, highly revered photographers that don't touch Photoshop at all. In fact, they kind of suck at it. It's up to them if they ever want to tell people that. But they have retouchers that they send their stuff out to. For me, it simply came down to a matter of the idea. Tony G, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate it. For me, it came down to a matter of I had to start to be honest with myself about how to best spend my time. And I'm a little OCD. So when I'm working on a face and I'm taking care of blemishes and that, I'm that guy that's got it blown up to where there's like 8 pixels on the screen, right? And I'm taking care of everything, which we all know that in reality, you don't need to get quite that detailed, but it's in my head. It's like it's there and it's a flaw, so fix it. So it got to the point for me like this is ridiculous. And true story, Saheen reached out to me one day on Facebook, and I hate that. Like I hate it when I get this message like, oh, we could do your retouching for you. It's like, but he just picked the right day. And I was in just a snarky enough mood. I wrote back to him and I said, look, I'm not, he's like, just send us an image. He said, send us an image and we'll show you what we can do. Diego, thank you so much, man. Give me 1 second and I'll get to your question. So, I told him, I said, look, I'm not going to send you an image. And I don't want one for free. I said, I'm going to send you 5 images. And I sent him like one that needed the background taken out, 5 different things that need to be done. And I said, if they suck, I'm not paying a dime. I said, if they're good and I can use them, you'll bill me. I will pay you for all 5 of them. I don't want anything free. I want great work. And he said, okay, send the images. So I did. The images came back in 24 hours. They were awesome. And I've used him ever since. I'm sure he wishes I would use him more, but obviously with YouTube, I'm not shooting every day. I'm not shooting 3 or 4 times a week. So I'm not turning out the same kind of volume of stuff. But still, at this point, for me to sit down and do all that tiny retouching, nah, it goes out the door. And even if I have to do masking, like I have a set of images that I'm about to give him tomorrow, I still do a couple client things along the way because I can't completely let go of my favorite clients. So I did a quick shoot last week. I've got like 8 shots where I've got to take the model off the background and put in a similar color background. So he's going to get those tomorrow. I'm going to have him mask them out. He'll send me back PSDs, and that's going to save me a ton of time. And they're fairly easy masking because I shot them really clean, but still, I don't want to spend the time to do that. Okay, so I hope that helps. Diego, no name cheap softbox versus brand name softbox. What's the difference really? I mean, in terms of light quality, for example. Well, okay, so there are 2 ways for us to answer that question, right? It's kind of like comparing a Paul Buff Alien B and a Profoto D1. If we're going to bench test and we're going to look at the quality of the light, in other words, measure it, etc., well, the Profoto D1 is going to blow the crap out of the Alien B. But in practice, I'll be damned if I'm going to spend the money for a Profoto B1. I'll work with the Alien B any day. Profoto's a beautiful flash, but ridiculously expensive, crazy expensive to repair. I can do just fine with the Alien B. Softboxes are kind of the same thing, and you hit on the difference. The difference from one softbox to the next, it's going to be the color. because the material. So obviously it goes without saying. Let's pick a brand. In fact, we'll pick my favorite brand. In part because I've used this company for nearly 30 years, and in part because they just agreed to send me some new modifiers so that I can do some videos for you guys. So they're not paying me, but they're giving me some modifiers to be able to do some stuff for you guys. And I'm negotiating with a couple companies, including the one I'm about to mention, to see if they will let me take the stuff they're sending me to play with, and instead of sending it back to them, give it to you guys as prizes. So fingers crossed, okay? So the company I'm referring to is PhotoFlex. So you guys know, and if you follow me on social media, which you should be, you've seen the pictures that I posted recently of my wall of softboxes and beauty dishes, okay? So my go-to softbox is a medium-size PhotoFlex softbox. So that's like 24 by like 32 inches, I believe. They make those in gold, they make them in white, they make them in silver. I've also used in the past Chimeras, which are white insides, very, very expensive high-end softboxes. I've used Niwers, the white ones, and I've used the Paul C. Buff ones that are silver on the inside, and a couple other cheap off-brands, okay? So let's just talk about the color first as opposed to the brand. I personally don't like the silver-lined softboxes. You tend to get a little bit more light out of them because, of course, the silver is like a reflector, but it's a really cold light for my taste. I really like the white-lined softboxes. I definitely don't like gold-lined because I find the problem with the gold is that it's too gold, it's too warm. So I'm just not really a fan of that. So for me, I prefer white. When it comes to the brand thing, if you put up a Niwer, which you can buy on Amazon for like probably 30 bucks, and then you put up a PhotoFlex, which is going to cost you probably $100 more than that, will you see a color difference? Sure, there will be a slight color difference. But we have to remember, you can do a custom color balance in camera using something like an Expo disc, or working with a gray card or a white card, depending on the camera brand and how they color balance. Or you could color balance in post using the eyedropper tool in Camera Raw or in Lightroom for the develop panel, or even in Capture One. So I guess what I'm trying to say is I wouldn't sweat it that much. I would consider, do I go with an expensive one or a cheap one, more on the matter of what can your budget afford and how can you get the maximum bang for your buck. You know, understand to a degree, you always get what you pay for. Meaning if you go with the cheap ones and you're going to set them up and take them down all the time, they're going to last you about 6 months because the rods aren't going to be as sturdy. They're going to start to bend and stay kinked, and then the box is going to lose its shape, and it's just going to be a mess. And I've seen that happen. Whereas if you're going to go with a PhotoFlex as an example, same with Shamir, any of the big ones, their rods are actually made of fiberglass. They don't lose their shape, all that kind of stuff. So they're much, much more durable. If you're going to set it up and take it down, set it up, take it down, set it up and take it down. If you're able to put your softbox together and leave it assembled and hang it on a wall when you're not using it, or leave it on a light stand, heck, you can get away with a cheaper one. No problem at all. So I hope that helps. That's the way that I would approach it. Okay? Toby Hines, your PhotoFlex light panel is 25 years old. Yeah, I mean, I love PhotoFlex. I was devastated when they were sold. I guess it's ProMark or that, but the good part is ProMark has done a really good job of keeping the brand alive. And I was really pleased to learn after I just talked to their marketing folks a couple weeks ago that they're doing really, really well, and the product line is still there. I've always been a fan of their stuff. They've always been my go-to light modifier. I've used a lot of different ones. I'm not saying they're the best. I'm saying they're my favorite. The best modifier is the one that's going to give you the kind of light that you need. What you guys always hear me talk about with modifiers is don't fall into the trap of, ooh, look at the shape of this one, and it's black, but it's got yellow stripes on it, and it's got some cool name, and it's a parabolic thing that you can adjust it and move the light in and out and all that stuff. 90% of the time, you don't need that crap. It's gimmick. It's just gimmick. And the worst part is, the more moving parts you put in a modifier, the more stuff that's going to go wrong with it, period. So for me, I totally love it simple. Keep it simple, makes life easy, okay? The Analytical Gamer. Joe, what resolution do you recommend for uploading to a site like SmugMug, Zenfolio, etc. for selling prints? So my advice to you for that question, and then he goes on to say, should we upload full resolution or something smaller? It depends on what you're doing. So I've not used Zenfolio. I used SmugMug years ago to try it out. if I recall correctly. So I'm sure there are some folks in here that can set the record straight on what I'm about to say, just to make sure we get the facts correct. So help me out, guys. Depending on how you're selling, I believe SmugMug will allow you to upload an image that is not full res, but it's going to look good on the screen. And then if somebody orders a print, they basically like send you a message that says, hey, you need to upload the high res file. So that way you're not loading all your full res files. You're only uploading a full res when it's needed for print. That being said, 5,000 pixels wide is pretty freaking huge. If you're just uploading to SmugMug or Zenfolio for the purpose of like online proofing, and then you're going to upload the full res when somebody orders something, I would actually encourage you to make your images no more than about 1,000 pixels at their longest dimension, 1,200 at the biggest. Keep in mind, and the real answer here, by the way, go and look at the FAQs at SmugMug, because I know for a fact SmugMug gives you a lot of good recommendations with that. Just make sure, so that you don't feel the need to put massive watermarks all over your images, make sure that you're prepping your images properly for web display. That way, if somebody's going to be obnoxious and copy it, because SmugMug, Zenfolio, they all have like the right-click protection and all that kind of stuff. But the simple fact of the matter is, gang, if you put a picture on the internet, it can be copied. Done. So honestly, the idea of like enabling the right-click protection and all that, I actually encourage you to do it because it will discourage some people. But don't be doing it thinking, hey, nobody's going to get my picture. No, if you're afraid of people getting your pictures, don't put them on the internet. Done. All right? So don't be the guy that puts the big watermark all over your picture. But you know, you want to make sure you're prepping the image like it's 72 DPI. If you keep it around 1,000, 1,200 pixels, the most somebody's going to get out of that is like a 4x6 print. So could they take it, print it, etc.? So Analytical Gamer's saying SmugMug recommends full res files. Look a little bit deeper. I'm not actually contradicting them, and I'm not going to say they're wrong. Look a little bit deeper. You're going to upload the full res, but are they displaying it at full res? I don't think they are, Analytical Gamers. So check that. As long as they're not displaying it at full res, if they're saying, hey, upload the full res and then we have it and you don't have to go back and forth, that makes sense. Do it, okay? The real key is what's being displayed. That's the key. So if they're having you do the high res so that they don't have to come back and get it from you, fine. And especially if you're going to offer like downloads and that kind of stuff, well, then you have to upload the full res. But that's what I would start with, okay? Rick Mentor, how are we doing here? We're doing pretty good time-wise. All right, cool. Rick Mentor, a 70 to 200 millimeter 2.8 lens at at 85 millimeter. Is that the same as an 85 millimeter at 2.8? So it's safe to say there's no need to buy a designated 85 millimeter lens? Yep, exactly. It's the same, except it's a lot bigger, a lot heavier, a lot longer, a lot more money. But certainly a 70 to 200 covers more range. Yeah, so literally and admittedly for many years, I owned a 70 to 200 and I owned an 85. 90% of the time, I picked up the 70 to 200. The only time I would pick up the 85 is, because the 85 was a 1.8, the 70 to 200 was a 2.8. The only time I would pick up the 85 is if I was going to do a low light portrait, which was very rare. Or if I knew I was just going to do a simple like business type headshot, nothing fancy, and I just wasn't in the mood to deal with the weight and the size of the 70-200. Otherwise, the 70-200 was my go-to lens the overwhelming majority of the time. So yeah, if you've got a 70-200, you're happy with it, and it's doing well for you, and you don't have tons of money to spend on all kinds of gear, don't buy an 85. Get something else to round out your kit, okay? Alonzo, do I think the Sony A850 is still worth it for $500 US? Gosh, Alonzo, I'm going to tell you straight up, I don't know a damn thing about the Sony 850. So let me pull it up here really quick and see. So this is a 24.6 megapixel full frame camera, steady shot. Okay, so it's one of the older Sonys. If you can get that for $500 and it's new, yeah, I would say that's great. And it's a good introduction into the Sony line. Now understand, I want to be clear, that's not the same sensor. I don't even think it's running the same exact color engine, meaning the software that like the A6000, the A7R series, the A7R2, all that. I'm pretty sure there's a difference there. But hey, 24.6 megapixels. Now, that's actually not... Oh, it is full frame. Yeah, so I would say, yeah, that's a really good deal. If you can get it new for $500, awesome. Yeah. The one thing I would encourage you to do is think ahead a little bit. Are you really looking to commit to the Sony system? If you're looking to commit to the Sony system, then go for it. And I don't mean like, oh my God, maybe you shouldn't. Sony's great stuff. Obviously, a lot of people are really into Sony. But just make sure that that's kind of the system you want to go with, because once you get the body, you're going to wind up buying lenses for it. So you're going to start to build out a kit, okay? And that $500 price, if you get it, that's a great cheap, because or a great price, because on Amazon, it's like $650. So yeah, I would say go for it. John, for shooting a teen girl, 16 years old, model, anything you need to do differently beside the modeling release needed parental authority? Wow, yeah. So, John, I'll come back to your question. In fact, let me stick it down here. I'll come back to your question. Answer a question for me. Are we talking for a modeling portfolio? And if the answer is yes, don't just type yes. Tell me yes, and tell me specifically what kinds of shots are you doing. Like, are you doing a headshot? Are you doing, what are you doing? Are you going to put her, are you going to do a bikini with a 16-year-old? Are you doing lingerie with a 16-year-old? Here, I'll get some people's backs against the wall. When I did portfolios with 16-year-olds, I did lingerie. Now, before you all start typing hate messages, chill for just a second. Let me get John's answer, and then I'll explain what that is, because it's not what you think it is. So just relax. I will come back to John's question there, okay? So yeah, Chad, leave that one down so I can keep track of it. All right, so I'll come back to that, John. AJ, what's the best wide-angle lens for my Sony a6-300 to take cityscapes in New York? AJ, you know, that's a question that you don't want to ask people. So let me explain, because I mean, I want to help you, but I also want to help you not make bigger mistakes. When you ask a question like that, man, you are asking people to give you simply a personal preference question. In other words, or personal preference answer. You're asking them to give you a lot of hot air, okay? If you put a little bit of thought into this and you do a little simple research, you don't have to rely on opinions. And it's mainly because of this thing called the internet. And first of all, I will point out to you, AJ, and again, I'm not trying to be a jerk, I'm just being honest. You're asking a portrait photographer what's the best lens for a landscape, right? So here's my advice to you. Seriously, don't ask somebody that question, because all they're going to do is they're going to give you their favorite lens. Okay? Go to a website like 500pixels.com. Everybody's heard of that. Awesome website. Amazing photography. Click on the Landscapes tab. And go look at, in fact, better yet, go to the search tool and do Landscapes New York, and you will get like thousands of landscape shots in New York. Start looking at the pictures that you like the most, and Alexa heard me say its name. Start looking at the pictures that you like the most of New York, and all of them have EXIF data, and they tell you what lenses they were shot with. So you're going to find the images. So this is it's a visual exercise. Forget people's opinions. Look at the images, see which ones you like, and bingo, that's going to tell you what you should get as far as the lens goes. So seriously, like, I'm not trying to dodge the answer, and I'm not trying to give you a hard time, but those are the kind of questions, I got to be honest. I dread those questions, and I really hate answering them, because I can't see the world through your eyes. I can't see the world through your taste. All I know about you is AJ Studios on YouTube. So the best thing you can do is find a visual reference that's your other option would be to go rent a bunch of lenses and walk around New York and take pictures. But that's a little more expensive. It takes a little more legwork. So you can go to a website where you don't have to rely on any opinions. You can look at pictures and know exactly what lenses they were done with. There's your answer. Okay? All right. I just want to make sure here. Did I get John's response yet? I didn't get John's response. Hopefully John's still here, and we'll finish that question. Especially now since I did that whole lingerie thing. I promise you, guys, one way or another, I'll come back to that, because I don't want people thinking that I'm doing something inappropriate with teenagers. I'm not, okay? Marcel, you took a shot at 2.8 yesterday, 1/160th, and they took a shot at same thing. Oh, okay, sorry. Took a shot, so I wanted to make sure I was reading that right. Took a shot at f2.8 at 1/60th of a second, and then took a shot at ISO 3200 for the Canon. Wait, one more time, guys. Sorry. He took the shot, ISO 3200, f2.8, 1/160th of a second with a Canon camera. Then he took the same settings with a Sigma, and I'm assuming this is actually Canon lens and Sigma lens, but Sigma tells him ISO 2500 for the exact same shot. Why? Marcel, don't read into that too much. It's because different cameras measure things differently. Different lenses will measure things differently. You could take a wide angle lens on your camera and then take a meter reading and then switch to a normal lens or a telephoto lens, and you're going to get a different reading. So don't read too much into that. That's normal. All right, John, I see that's for her portfolio. Good. Not doing swimsuits this time, but you didn't answer the rest of my question. What are you shooting? What outfits in terms of like categories? Are you doing fitness wear? Are you dressing her up as any characters? Give me some feedback and I'll answer that question, okay? I want to know like what you're playing. Oh, Marcel, don't sweat it. Your English is better than like my French, man. So it's cool. Don't worry. So let's see here. Where are we at? Jason, I already answered that question. I think we got that up at the top of the day. Yeah, we did. So let's get rid of that. Niku. Hey Joe, can you give me some advice for me, like an assistant? What do you have to be? What do you have to do to be a good one? What do you have to do to be a good assistant? Well, Nico, first of all, that depends on where you're at. If you're going to be an assistant, for me, it's kind of like being an intern. You got to be really good at sweeping floors. I say that because Morgan's here. Morgan, I promise you, you will never have to sweep the floors unless you make a mess. Okay, so Nico. A really good assistant knows more than the photographer does. If you go to a place like New York and you make it a point to look up some of the people that work as photography assistants, understand that in a place like New York, a lot of the assistants, they're the ones that actually have the gear. So when a photographer hires them, that assistant brings what's called a digital cart. And it's literally like on wheels. It's a cart they roll in, set up big computer screens, set up a MacBook Pro, and they, basically run the show on the back end of the shoot. A good assistant, though, literally has to know as much, if not more, than a photographer. Because the whole idea for a good assistant is to understand what the photographer wants before the photographer knows they need it, so that the photographer can really focus on the creative aspect of the shoot, interacting with the client. Being an assistant is not the same as hanging around with somebody and watching them, okay? Understand for a lot of you, especially if you're younger, and Niku, I don't know if you're a young photographer, but for those of you that are young, no, it's doing good, guys, we're good. I saw that, Tom. If you're a young photographer, don't make the mistake of asking someone if you can go hang out and watch them. In fact, Morgan and I had this conversation recently because we will not name names, so Morgan, do not type the name. Morgan, I was not Morgan's first choice, even though it's hard to swallow. I wasn't. Morgan had applied for an internship with a fashion photographer in New York, who shall go unnamed for this conversation. Morgan got the internship, kinda, and she was told that basically, since she was still in college, meaning it's a kind of a backhanded way of saying that since you don't know anything yet, you'll spend the summer running errands to get coffee and sitting in the office retouching, but you probably won't even make it into the studio for a shoot. Even if she would have been allowed into the studio for a shoot, she'd be watching. When you're watching something, it's kind of like, and again, here we go, Joe gets himself in trouble. It's kind of like watching a Jason Lanier video. So you watch Jason Lanier walk around, oh yeah, that's a great picture. Oh yeah, that's a great picture. Oh yeah, that's a great picture. What do you learn? All these guys that do these shooting videos, what do you learn by watching them? You don't learn crap. You just don't. So if you're asking that assistant question because you're thinking, hey, I want to approach somebody and I want them to let me come in and watch them and learn. No. You need to find a photographer that's willing to take you on and actually teach you. So when Morgan contacted me, first thing I told her is, look, I'm not going to have you sit and watch me. And I'm not doing enough shooting right now for you to learn a whole lot by assisting me. So she's going to have assignments due. She's going to be helping me with the YouTube stuff that I'm doing because she wants to learn about that, and she's going to be taking video courses next year, so she's got to learn video. That's going to give her a jump start. But I'm going to be giving her assignments to do for her, assignments that are going to teach her lighting. So probably the first 2 weeks that Morgan's here, she is going to become intimately friendly with my mannequin. And she's going to work with lighting. And she's not going to get to use my cool studio strobes. She's going to use the Vivitar 283s that you guys keep hearing me talk about, because that's going to be my gift to her when she arrives. And she's going to get 4 of them with inexpensive triggers, and over the summer she's going to learn how to light. So Nico, if you're wanting to try and find somebody to learn from, that's not the same as being an assistant. A good assistant knows their stuff, man. Good assistants are damn good photographers. That's the important part. Okay. All right, so John's back with his answer about the model. Mostly headshots and full body shots since she doesn't have anything yet. Okay, cool. So let's work this backwards, John. First of all, don't do a lot of full body shots. Nobody gives a damn. Understand that when you do full length head to toe, guys, so we're talking about selling a model now, right? When you do full length head to toe, you have to back up more. As a result of you backing up more, the face, the head, becomes smaller in the frame, right? Because it's the whole body. But let's face it, where's the action at? The action is the face and the head. So if you photograph a model from the knees up, or if you crop just above the knees, pretty safe bet there's feet down there, right? We don't have to show it in every shot. It's kind of like if I crop off the top of somebody's head. Pretty safe bet it was there. I don't have to show it in every picture. So John, as far as this young lady's portfolio goes, do not give her more than 1 full-length picture. And if she is not taller than 5'8", because she said she's 16 years old, if she's not taller than 5'8", do not make her look like a fashion model, because you're just making her and you look stupid. And also understand, for 16 years old, I don't know where you're from, John. I don't know what market. There ain't no work for 16-year-olds. So unfortunately, unless this kid's 5'10" or 5'11" and she's about to move to New York, she's ultimately barking up the wrong tree. But so in terms of doing it differently, understand that if she's 16, you can't make her look older than 18. You simply can't. Any 16-year-old is going to want to look like she's 18, 19, 20 years old in all of her pictures because they like that. Gives mom and dad heartburn, but they love that. Think about the way modeling agencies would work. And guys, this is common sense. There's no rocket science here, but think about this. If I'm a client, if I'm a company, and I need a model, and I go to a modeling agency, so if I use a teenager, a 16-year-old, by default, that teenager is a pain in the ass. You know why? Because she's a minor. So that means on the day of the shoot, here in the United States, she falls under child labor laws. And in fact, during the school year in most states, not only does she fall under child labor laws, but she falls under truancy laws. Some states release the truancy laws at 15, some at 16, some don't release them at all until you're 18 and out of high school. So that being said, that means that I have to accommodate a parent at the shoot. That means that I can only have that model there for a couple hours. So if I'm looking for somebody that looks like they're 18 or 19, why would I hire a 16-year-old? I'd be an idiot. If I hire an 18-year-old, I no longer have to accommodate mom and dad. I no longer have to worry about child labor laws. I can have them there for 12 hours if I need to, as long as I give them the appropriate breaks. So the point is, advertisers aren't hiring 16-year-olds unless they're desperate. So actually, and believe me, your 16-year-old will not like this suggestion, John, but if your 16-year-old really, really, really wants to model, make her look like she's 14. Make her look like she's 13. Because by the same equation, if you flip it and go backwards, yes, I have smile on my finger. If you flip that and go backwards, a client would much rather hire a 16-year-old to portray a 14-year-old. If they need a 14-year-old in their ad, that 16-year-old is going to be a little bit more mature, is going to take direction better, is going to have a little bit more confidence. So if you really want the girl to work, so yeah, 5'8", John, where are you located? Let me know what part of the world you're in. 5'8" still borderline, man. So unless you're in a fashion market, the girl's not doing any fashion work. She's just not. She wants that. I guarantee you what the girl wants. She wants to look like she's 20. She wants to look like a fashion model, but you're just wasting time. And understand, and I'm going to guilt you here, John, if you're making money on this, remember when the girl fails, you're the one that took her money. So, understand, you guys know that I made my living for about best part of 15 years shooting modeling portfolios. I had people travel from all over the country to shoot modeling portfolios with me. In that 15 years, I probably shot no more than 6, 15, 16, and 17-year-olds in that entire time period. I turned them down because I'm not going to be the guy that takes their money so they can fail. Statistically, they just don't work, period. And even if this kid lives in Newark, New Jersey, right across the river from Manhattan, at 5'8", she's not working in New York. Not as a 16-year-old. It's just not happening. So it's basically barking up the wrong tree. And here's a good bark, gang. For those of you that want to work with models, obviously I know you don't like this news, okay? But don't take my word for it. It's not rocket science. If you want to know whether or not this 16-year-old is going to work in whatever town you're in, John, all you got to do is ignore Joe Edelman. And when TogChat's over, don't do it now because you need to watch the rest of TogChat. But ignore Joe Edelman and go to the Chamber of Commerce website for your town or city. Every city in the United States has a Chamber of Commerce, and every Chamber of Commerce website brags incessantly about the companies that are located there. Those are the potential advertisers. So all you got to do is go through those companies and look at the advertising they do. If they are not using 16-year-olds in their ads, well, guess what? Your 16-year-old isn't going to model. Done. It's that simple. So now, since we're running over time, there's a couple other questions I want to try and answer, but I have to address the lingerie thing since I said it now. There's a company called Delia's. Every young teenage girl knows about it. You guys can look it up on the web. The lingerie pictures that I did with 16-year-olds when I did them, it's basically pajamas. It's like a tank top and like a boy short, not the sexy, skimpy boy shorts, but like short shorts. And it's not the girl doing some sexy, like grab the t-shirt picture. No, in fact, literally, I put them on a bed, 16-year-old, put them on a bed and had them jump up and down and be really playful because that's exactly what the company Delia's does in their ads. And they sell to under age 18 teenagers. So I would do the pictures to look like what a major company was doing in their advertising. So again, and guys, that's a big part of why I'm here on YouTube, because the writing was getting to be on the wall where it doesn't make sense for these kids to be spending all this money for portfolios. It simply doesn't. When I did, in fact, I did 2 consultations today. I still do consultations with models. If you guys go to my website, so if you got people that are really serious about modeling, you can go to my website, modelingtip.com. On that website, they can schedule a 1-hour consultation with me. I do them via Skype, Google Hangouts, etc. And pretty much routinely at this point, when I am talking to, whoops, we lost you guys. There we go. Let's come back to that, okay? Pretty much routinely, when I am talking to young girls that want to model, and that's anywhere from the 16-year-old bracket up to like the 24-year-old bracket, I'm encouraging them not to hire photographers to do modeling portfolios. I'm encouraging them to be smart. I teach them about all the pitfalls, and I send them to Model Mayhem and tell them to get a couple decent pictures and then go test the waters with an agency. If an agency is really committed to them and is really going to get them work, then go hire a good photographer and then spend the money. But the whole process, it's changing from where it used to be. Jose, thank you so much, man. I really, really appreciate it. Okay? So, John, I hope that helps. I have a feeling that wasn't exactly what you were hoping to hear, but I hope that helps. So, let's see. Brent Trask, isn't it really the shooting distance with the APS? I'm not quite sure what your question is there, man. I'm sorry. And I have a feeling you're referring to another question. So if you want to fill me in, I'll try and grab that. Smart video. I'll be moving to a new house soon. Congratulations and my sympathies for the work involved. Decided to turn 2 of my rooms into a studio. You do weddings and baby shoots mostly. What are your recommendations for wall colors and a setup? Wow. Really? You're asking me that question? Okay, so smart video. You need to visit my YouTube channel. And when you visit my YouTube channel, right at the top of the page, watch that video. DIY home photo studio. All of that's answered right there. And more, okay? So make sure you watch that video. Tom W, can I name or describe my filing system? I am actually going to do a video on it. It's coming up in a couple of weeks. You'll see a video about what my filing system is. I'll be honest with you. I've gone back and forth for a couple of months, Tom, about doing it only because the minute I post that video, there's going to be 3,000 people who are going to say, but I do it this way. Like I really give a shit, right? But people have to tell their side. So I've had enough people ask if I would share it. Yes, my method's really, really simple. And the cool part is, which I'm going to share, my method has a flaw in it. In other words, there's a piece of redundancy in my system that doesn't need to be there. I figured that out about 6 years into it. So at that point, I wasn't going to go back and change it. I just kept it because it's not a big deal. It's not hurting the system. It's not making it inefficient, but it even actually has a piece of redundancy that like it didn't need to be there. So I'm going to talk about that flaw the whole bit, but I promise you, I am going to do it in a video. I finally decided. I put it into my editorial calendar. I will share that with people because people keep asking. So it's coming. Let's see. Brent Drafts was talking, one person talking full frame or APS-C. Oh, is it just a distance? No, Brent, not at all. Because full frame, you're getting more pixels to work with. So the real question is do you need more pixels? That's honestly really the question for me is, do you have the absolute need, or is it just the I want? That's kind of the thing that you're dealing with that, okay? All right, Warren Techno. Going to do my first wedding shoot for free. Good for you. I actually like to hear that, okay? I've only got a D3200 with a prime 50mm f1.8 and a 55-300 f4.5/5.6, so that's a kit lens, and an 18-1.5 kit lens. Do you think I can shoot the wedding with it? Any advices? Well, okay, so the fact that you're not taking money for this because you're just learning, that's great. Warren, what I would like you to answer for me, because I'm hoping you're still here, just type it in. Are you the primary photographer for this wedding or not? Oh, little blue duck, you're really going to talk about bokeh in my chat room? Really? That's tempting. Warren, let me know. Chad, don't move that one up yet. Actually, send that one back down, Chad. Charles, thank you so much, man. I really, really appreciate it. Warren, let me know if you're the primary shooter or not, okay? Let's see. Smart Video, you've only been watching TogChat. Holy cow. Like, really? Well, okay, so listen, Smart Video, I really appreciate you watching, but seriously, for your sake, you have to promise me then, skip the next couple TogChats. Like, really, and go watch videos. I mean, especially if you're just learning photography, I don't know where you're at in the learning curve. It sounds like you're somewhat advanced, but I'm not trying to pat myself on the back. I think I've got some decent videos out there. Go watch the videos and then come back to TogChat. I'm not going anywhere. I'll be here. But seriously, like, catch up on some of those videos, okay? All right, so Warren, you're the primary shooter. All right, so the first thing I'm going to tell you, Warren, and guys, I'm going to make this my last question for the night since we're way over. For those of you that didn't get questions answered tonight, I'm really sorry, but you can come back on Monday. I always try to do a couple questions at the end of the photo review night, and of course, I'll be back here next Wednesday. But Warren, if you're doing somebody's wedding, I want you to promise me one thing, and it's going to cost you a couple dollars, man. I'm sorry, but please do this. Rent a second camera, okay? Go to any of the rental companies. All you got to do is do a Google search for camera rentals, and the minute I said that now, you're going to have 10 people that are going to type in all their favorite camera rental companies. There's a load of them, all right? Rent a second camera body to take with you. Do not go to shoot a wedding with one camera body, because, man, what happens if your body dies? Like, that's a problem, right? So have a second camera body. And believe me, you can rent camera bodies cheap. And don't go and rent like some fancy high-end camera body. Rent another APS-C camera body. If you can rent a D3200, I would honestly recommend that you stick with a D3200. That way you're going to have two cameras that are identical. You're going to understand how they work. It's going to be easy. If you pick a camera that's an upgrade, as much as it might be cool to have the upgrade, now you're running the risk of, are you going to know how to use it? That's a problem. But have a second camera with you. As far as your lenses go, there's nothing wrong with kit lenses, gang. Nothing, okay? They can break and damage easier if you don't take care of them. They're not as durable and well-made in that sense. You can do great stuff with kit lenses. So I wouldn't stress any of that stuff at all. The other advice I would give you, Warren, because believe me, I could talk to you for like the next hour about advice and it's just going to overwhelm you. So I'm going to tell you just the two things. Have a second camera. Second one is the church and the reception hall. I don't know when the wedding is. but let's just say hypothetically it's this weekend. So if the wedding was this Saturday, that means that you have tomorrow and Friday. You need to go and physically look at the church. And if you're smart, you'll do it at the time of day that the wedding is going to be. So if it's a 2 o'clock wedding, go look at the church at 2 o'clock. And then you need to go to the reception hall. And you need to look at the reception hall. And then you also need to look around the area. Andre hasn't paid attention to anything tonight. He's been playing with Satellite 3D the whole night. Awesome, Andre. So then you need to go and you need to look at the areas around the church and around the reception hall to find some spots where you can do some nice group pictures and that type of thing. And then the last thing is go and look in lots and lots of wedding pictures online. And the reason for doing that is start to create yourself a shot list. And I'm not kidding, write it down, like make a note in your phone, open up notes or whatever. If you're an Android person, make a note in your phone and make a list. Like make sure I do a close-up picture of the rings. Make sure I take a picture of the bride's dress before she puts the dress on. Make sure I get a picture of this, a picture of that. Do a whole list and have a conversation with the bride and groom before the day of the wedding about specific pictures they want, because they're going to want a picture with the groom's grandmother and the bride's sister, and they're going to have pictures that they want. Those pictures are important to them. Have yourself a list and literally use it as a checklist. So those are the two big advices I'm going to give you. Don't ask for too much input beforehand, especially not on gear and lighting, because believe me, a lot of people are going to tell you, oh, make sure you're doing lighting, do all this. Stick in your comfort zone. If you push yourself out of your comfort zone in your technology, you are taking a huge risk on this couple's wedding day, which you don't get to repeat. So keep it simple, stupid. Work with what you got, work with what you know. Just get another body for the day and plan out the shots. All day long, you should be looking for opportunities. Super, super important. But you definitely want to have a plan going in so you know, hey, this is the stuff I've got to make sure that I get so that you don't miss the important things. Okay? All right, gang. So listen, I am going to call it a night. I mean, you guys are awesome. I'm not going to lie to you. Like, I love these nights. So I see a couple of you guys lobbying for me. Thank you. Please, guys, before you head out, hit the like button underneath. By all means, leave a comment. I hope to see you guys tomorrow night. I know a lot of you are trying to get a business started or have started businesses. And, I get a lot of people that come into these chats and they're kind of whining a little bit. Like, I'm having a hard time making enough money, getting clients. Thursday nights, this is the place to be. It's marketing. We'll be looking at a photographer's website. We'll be talking about their social media. If you've been here the last couple nights, the last couple Thursday nights, I've also been sharing some really cool marketing tools that you can use for free. Some of them have paid versions, but I'm also giving you the free option so you know about them and can start to use them to help you with your social media or to help you with your web marketing, all that stuff. So you want to be here for Thursday nights. So I hope to see all of you tomorrow night. For those of you that can't make it tomorrow night, if I'm not going to see you until next Monday or next Wednesday, look for some new videos coming out and make sure that you get out there and take pictures. So gang, please, thank you all so much for being here. Hit that thumbs up, and whatever you do, remember this.
Thanks for watching another live episode of TogChat. Now go and pick up that camera and shoot something, because your best shot, it's your next shot. So keep learning, keep thinking, and keep shooting. Adios.